Hi guys, and welcome to my new video from Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. It is the last city on my European journey, and today we will walk around the city, talk about its pros and cons, learn about local traditions, and even touch on the topic of Catalan independence. Let's go! And here you can see this famous Sagrada Familia behind the trees. And I didn't expect that there will be a park. I expected that it will be like a square, a big square in front of the cathedral, but it's more like a park with a nice pond and many tourists. Barcelona is one of the most visited cities in Europe, which has led to a serious over-tourism problem, something I'll also discuss in this video. Like in any popular destination, I knew that I have to prepare myself for pickpockets or stressful situations, and one of those situations happened within minutes of arriving. So I went to the barista and said that my suitcase was stolen. Now I'm at the railway station, actually outside of it, facing the cafe where I just sat, and I wanted to take an Uber or Bolt to my hotel, but I was surprised that there is some regulation in Catalonia. You cannot order Uber or Bolt in the first 15 minutes after your arrival here. It's stated directly in the app, and it's made due to the high traffic in the city, which is fine. I mean, I love public transportation, but like at least make it convenient. You cannot even use Apple Pay or a debit card, so I will have to buy a physical ticket for a metro and then for the bus, but it's not the worst thing that happened. After I learned that I have to wait for 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I'll sit in a cafe. I placed the order, I left my suitcase next to the table and went to the restroom with my backpack. And what do you think? When I returned from the restroom, I didn't find my suitcase, so I was like, no, like I've been traveling for 2 months, and especially here in the last days before my departure to Georgia, I have to go to the police to look for my suitcase. I started blaming myself, like, of course, it is the most tourist city that I'm visiting. Of course, something like this had to happen. So I went to the barista and said that my suitcase was stolen, and I asked them to check the surveillance cameras, but they said that for this I have to go to the police department in the railway station. And I went out of the cafe, and by a miracle I see a man running towards me with my blue suitcase, and he was apologizing like, oh sorry, I just confused it with another one. And I didn't believe him first, because like, how was it possible? How could you confuse it? Do you have the same color? And he was like, yes, we have so many luggage, sorry. You can call me paranoid, but I started thinking that there's a bomb or some drugs. So immediately after that man left, I opened my suitcase, checked all my stuff, it is there, now it's fine, but I'm so pissed off by this situation. At least they didn't steal it. Anyway, now I have to go on a journey on a public transport with paper tickets. I did this, I bought the tickets, and there was a big line of tourists. I could use only cash because they don't have like contactless payment with the card. You can also insert your card there if you're so confident.
Próxima estació
Maria Cristina.
So after the metro, I had to change and take a tram. I liked it, I mean the whole vibe there, but I couldn't figure out how to pay. I saw that people use another type of ticket. Shame on me, I didn't pay for this ride. Well, I have to say that I was too harsh on the Barcelona public transport, because it turned out to be very convenient, and actually my card can be used in various types of transportation. So Yesterday, I wasn't cheating when I took that tram. I just couldn't figure out how to put the ticket inside of the box. But anyway, yeah, it works on all the transport for 3 days. And I used this time to finally explore the city. I went to the embankment that runs along the Mediterranean Sea coast, and just look how beautiful it was. I'm here next to the Christopher Columbus monument. This famous explorer has a special connection to Barcelona. It was Spanish monarchs Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand who agreed to sponsor his research of a new route to India. As we know, Columbus reached not India but the Americas. In 1493, he returned to Barcelona and presented the monarchs with the exotic treasures and native peoples he had encountered. So began the European colonization of the American continent. Anyway, back to present-day Barcelona. Judging by the sound, this building is either school or kindergarten, and wow, it looks so cool. Here's some historic landmark, but it's surrounded by a fence and seems to be closed. Kinda looks like sulfur bath in Tbilisi, Georgia. Looks like a real estate agency. I love getting to know a city by looking at its walls. Graffiti, stickers, and street ads say a lot about local life. Apparently, there are quite a few immigrants from Latin America here, because I saw flags of Venezuela, Argentina, and one I couldn't recognize. This poster also caught my eye. It was located on a fence surrounding a construction site. It is a Romani or Gypsy flag with some words, J control. I don't know what it means and I couldn't find the information online, so I asked my followers on Insta and that's what they told me. It means that there is a Gypsy family, in that case JE, who is in charge of the vigilance of this construction, so they offer their protection to extort money basically. I learned that in Venezuela they have something similar, it's called vaccine, and I replied that in Russia we have it too, but we call it krysha or a roof. I didn't know that such things exist in the European Union still. And it's funny how much I learned just from one poster on the street. Anyway, I also found some anti-war stickers, probably put up by Russian immigrants, and I came across another thing connected to my country. Oh my god, guys, do you see this blatant cancellation of Russian culture? Site on the Russian official media. When I firstly saw this from the distance, I thought that it's Lady Macbeth from Shakespeare, but there's also a play by a Russian writer Leskov, Lady Macbeth of Mtsensk. I didn't even expect to see it here. Like, how? Isn't there Russophobia in the West? So on my first day in Barcelona, I went on the walking excursion over the Gothic Quarter with a guide, and there was a big group of tourists, and we walked there for about 2 hours. It made me to think about this new problem of the world, overtourism. I visited many tours, but this was the first time when the guide gave us an earphone because it was very noisy that day. There was a concert in the city square, singing and dancing. But honestly, when I walked around this narrow street, I started to feel uncomfortable. So I found some silent place because I needed to make a circuit on my way to the metro station because the square is blocked. There is some celebration and many people. Now there are no people, but behind the corner there are like crowds. I was walking there along that main tourist street and I thought, how can you enjoy a journey like this, eating in these overcrowded cafes, buying these plastic souvenirs that are made in China anyway? Maybe once you have to go to all these touristy souvenir stores, but I wouldn't want my whole trip consist of only such experience. well, there's over-tourism in Europe and in big cities of the world in general, and I'm also a tourist here, so I do feel that I'm also a part of the problem. Especially in Barcelona, this conflict is very acute because in the summer of 2024, local people protested and splashed tourists with water. But I think it's so stupid to blame tourists because you let them into your country and they're just on vacation. Maybe you should ask your government some questions. Anyway. Still, I really enjoyed my time in the Catalan capital. Clean streets, great vibe, and this city excursion was totally worth it because I learned a lot and saw things I'd never experienced before. We even had the opportunity to witness this Catalan tradition, the walking giants. These are medieval characters, so it was really interesting to learn about it. They might seem intimidating for some people, but honestly, I enjoyed it so much because, well, I cannot see well from the distance, and when you see such a huge, high figure, it makes it easier to see all the details of their costumes, of their appearance. So yeah, I'm really lucky that I managed to see it. Another tradition that we unfortunately didn't see, but we did pass it by, was the human tower, when people are making a tower out of themselves and the youngest child is going on the very top. And there were actually many local people attending this event, and as our guide explained to us, it has a lot to do with independence movement. And he said that as a guide, I am trying to be neutral. I'm not taking any of the sides in this conflict. And he told us that participation in this event is really important for the Catalan people identity, and that people who attend these performances, they lean to be towards independence, something like this. That's what he said. Because all these dances and flags and symbolics is unique, especially for this region. After that, I even managed to see how these puppets are operated by people inside. Secret revealed. I didn't know whether this sign is in Spanish or Catalan, so I took a picture and checked it on the Google Translate, and it said that it's Catalan actually. If you translate it to Spanish, the word for a dog is different there. I was so fascinated about these differences between Spanish and Portuguese, but here in Catalonia I explored a whole other world of Catalan language. For example, right here. All of these posters are in Catalan, and only this one is in Castilian Spanish. Okay, now I'm going to go to this only Catalonian supermarket chain. As I found out, it operates here in Catalonia and in Andorra for some reason. So yeah, it's not everywhere in Spain. Honestly, I don't see much difference from the groceries I saw in Madrid because, well, I don't know Spanish, and that's why I cannot differentiate these languages. But yeah, that's how it looks. And honestly, I was quite surprised to learn about this difference between Spain as a whole and this autonomous region. Don't get me wrong, but as an outsider, I will say some things that probably will trigger some radical fighters for the Catalan independence. I just want to share what I think as a newcomer here from Eastern Europe, from Russia, right? Firstly, I was surprised to learn that it's basically like another country. As I shared in my previous video about Madrid, I am not that aware of the Spanish sphere. I'm used to think about Spain and the language, the culture in a particular way. Okay, it's located on the Iberian Peninsula. I knew that in Spain they speak Spanish. I, of course, heard about Catalonia as a region and about its fight for independence, but here it feels even more present when you are walking here, seeing the street signs in Catalan. There are a lot of documentaries on YouTube about this. There was an attempt of a referendum here. I also watched a documentary about this issue. And there was one comment. It was comment from a person who is like myself, not from Spain. They said something like, as an outsider, it feels that at least this documentary didn't provide us with some obvious reasons for this independence. I mean, independence to the point of becoming another separate country. Yeah, coming from Russia, I do feel this contrast because I want to compare it with regional struggles or federalism struggles in Russia, because de jure Russia is also a federation, but it's not working like this. How they discouraged people from learning the Tatar language in schools in Tatarstan, or there were huge protests in Bashkortostan, and of course the government is suppressing any kind of uprising and individualism expression, not only regarding national republics, but even republics consisting mostly of Russian, like Slavic population. Anyway, it is autocracy, and basically regions don't have their autonomy, their independence. Every decision, every law has to come from the center. And speaking about external policy of Russia is how Putin is expanding this imperialism on Ukraine, basically thinking that Ukraine is a part of Russia or something. In comparison to the democracy that I see in Europe, Russia seems so barbaric now. Or also the fact that so many territorial borders were mixed during the Soviet times, so that even now people who live in these territories continue to have conflicts. For example, a lot of people of Tajik origin live in Uzbekistan and vice versa. Or there's Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. So again, returning to Spain, I also heard that the local language was suppressed by the dictator Franco. Why all dictators like to suppress people, not allowing them to speak their language? Like, language has such a power. It's terrible that it was banned, but I'm so happy for the new generations that now live in a free democratic country and can participate in all these dances, in the human towers, schools and television is in Catalan. There's my point. Comparing this all to the disaster that is happening in Russia and what is Russia doing to its neighbors, it seems so normal to me, and at least it gives me hope. At least, guys, you don't have a military conflict here. That's what I mean. It feels like, when Denmark and Sweden are fighting, and to be cooler, Sweden invented IKEA and Denmark invented Lego. I love memes like this because it shows that even though these countries had a lot of beefs in the past, now they are just friendly neighbors because they live in the civilized European world, and I'm so rooting for this. I'm so rooting for democracy and freedom. Anyway, that was my take coming from a disastrous post-Soviet country. I hope you don't cancel me. One of the reasons I visited Barcelona was because I needed to exit the Schengen area from somewhere, and from Barcelona to the Georgian city of Kutaisi there are direct flights. So after that I returned to Georgia finally, and the first cultural shock I got after Europe was the dog that entered my hotel in Kutaisi, and also the dogs were just sleeping at the railway station. So yeah, it was my video about Barcelona. I'm still in the process of searching for the new abode, and on one hand this trip made me even more concerned and anxious. But at the same time, when I returned to Georgia, I felt calmer. I know that, okay, I have seen Europe, I know that it exists, and I don't have to be in a hurry, especially after I learned that Portugal now increases the time that is required for getting the passport. It's not official yet, it's just rumors, but if I was in Portugal already, this news would just devastate me. As you know, I filmed this Barcelona and other European videos quite a long time ago. I'm even embarrassed to say when. So this was the last video from my Schengen zone trip. I'm so relieved because I myself was tired of editing those old videos, reliving those moments again. I will use some footage I filmed in Europe, but it will be just a part of the video, and the next videos you will be seeing from me will be more up to date. But if you for some reason haven't watched my other videos from Europe, I created a whole playlist where you can find all those videos in the chronological order. Anyway, thank you for watching this video and supporting me along my European journey and along my YouTube journey. I've just realized that it's been 5 years as I am actively posting videos to this channel. I created it in 2018, but in 2020 I started making videos here actually. So wow, 5 years anniversary, yay! If you want to congratulate me on that, you can send a donation on Patreon or here becoming a YouTube sponsor. Write your comments, how you feel about this video, how you feel about Barcelona. Have a nice day and goodbye. Пока-пока.